his way. He's filled his sleigh with things for you and for me. It's that time of year when the world falls in love.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world.
Song of mine in 3/4 time wishes you and yours the same thing too.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you. 4 of you. We never really got that down, the whole good morning thing, did we? Okay, next guy will get the good morning thing. There you go. So we're in the second week of this series, Light of the World. And what we're talking about, we have this strong symbol at this time of year with Christmas in the 21st century where we equate light with Christmas lights and all these other things. And yet light is one of the most predominant symbols we see in Scripture as well, that's used all these different ways. So what we're doing in this series is we're comparing what does Scripture say about light that leads us into Christmas ultimately with Jesus being the light of the world. So the passage that we're going to look at today is in Matthew chapter 5. And this is the words of Jesus in verse 14 through 16. And he says this. He says, "You are the light of the world." Now, if we could pause there just real quick, okay? When he says you, he is talking about followers of Christ. I think sometimes when we read Scripture, we appropriately, when we see you, we assume Jesus is talking to someone else. But when he's talking to the followers of Christ, he's talking to you. So this you, like this is you, okay? So you are the you, and you are the light of the world. A lot of pressure there. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So I would like to talk with you today about how the church is the light of the world. But before we do that, I'd like to say a brief word of prayer. So let's pray. God, I thank you for the chance that we can gather together today. I ask that our hearts, our minds, our eyes would be open to what you are attempting to teach us. That we would be open to where you are leading us in this moment. So give us the grace to hear your words as you want them to be heard. And I pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. So the first Sunday that we met as a church, there aren't many times on Sunday mornings that I've been like nervous. It's not really just my normal reaction. But the first Sunday that we met, I was really, really nervous. And I was nervous for all the wrong reasons. I was really nervous because I had this thought of like, what if no one shows up? Like, what if I'm the only one here? What if I have to preach this whole message just to Bethany? I mean, I've already preached enough to her over the years and nothing seems to stick. So that would be, these are jokes. You can laugh. It's okay. There you go. It's going to be a long morning if you don't laugh at anything, guys. I just got to let you know that. And so I was just like, I was so nervous. And when I'm really nervous, I just pace around and I walk really fast and I do a whole bunch of things that don't really matter to keep myself busy. And so I was just kind of doing that and I'm all over the place. And then some people started showing up. Like some people started walking in. I was like, oh my goodness, thank goodness. It's not just me. Thank goodness. It's not just me and my family who's here. And I can remember I'm kind of standing to the back and I'm just watching the people come in, and Haley Conrad comes up next to me and she goes, I dare you to tell everyone that you don't like the direction this is headed and we're going to start a new church. And so I was like, in the moment, it all of a sudden like broke all the nerves. I was good. Like it was hilarious. And so I was like, oh, it was good. And then we had our first Sunday that we actually launched the church. The first Sunday, kind of our first public service. This is not actually a picture of it. I didn't take a picture of the first Sunday, but it gives you a little bit of what my view looked like. And so it's our first Sunday, and people come, and I was a little nervous then as well, and people have come in, and we had our district superintendent, Harold Berrien, the guy who used to be our district superintendent. Harold Berrien was there, and so I was a little nervous because he's kind of my boss, and I'm like, oh, hope this goes well. And so I'm up there giving the message, and I am doing a good job. Okay, I would just say that. Like, I knew I was doing a good job. I made jokes. People laughed. I made jokes when I meant to make jokes, and people laughed. And so, like, things are just going well. And Harold laughed. Harold had this funny thing when he laughed, that he would sit in a chair, and he would always sit like this. And when he laughed, the laughter never came out his mouth. He never actually just like vocally laughed. He would kind of tilt his head back, and he would go like this. And so he was doing that a lot. So like, okay, this is good. Things are going well. And then there was this one spot in the service, and I was trying to make a statement. It was a joke, okay, but I was trying to make a statement of like people who were cool and things like that. And I said, there are junior high boys who get the girls, and there are junior high boys who play by themselves. And which you don't get it now, context, okay? It's not as funny now. But at the time, it was somewhat of a funny joke. And people were just rolling, like everybody just like was dying laughing, like people are crying. They're laughing so hard. And I'm sitting there thinking like, wow, that was a lot funnier than I thought it was. And it kind of took me off guard. And you have this thing as a pastor, anytime people laugh and you don't exactly know why they're laughing, you'll figure out a way to kind of check your fly, because you don't want that to be the reason why they were laughing. So I'm like, oh, okay, this went well. And so service hall went through and everything was good, and I prayed. And then after the service, we're kind of standing around, we're talking about everything that happened. And so I'm in a group, and Harold Berrien's kind of in the group with us. And somebody comes up to me and they go, you know what you said, right? I'm like, well, I said a lot of things. Like, I just talked for 35 minutes. So, but yeah, I do have a vague idea as to what I said. And they go, no, you said there are junior high boys who get the girls. And then I finished the statement. I said, yeah, and junior high boys who play by themselves. And they go, that's not what you said. Anyway, what did I say? And they said, you said there are junior high boys who get the girls and junior high boys who play with themselves. And I went, oh no. And Harold, our district superintendent, is there, and he goes, I laughed at that one. That was amazing. And one of the things that amazed me is over the years, like this whole thing on Sunday morning, like I work really hard on this part of my role. I really do. And but it amazed me how many times, like the things that I said that I didn't plan to say were the things that stuck out. In the 9:30 service, a couple weeks ago, I accidentally made a joke about cocaine that I didn't mean to make, and that's all anyone talked about for a month. And so there were like the goofy things like that stuck out, but some of the other ones were the serious ones. So this would have actually been a couple years ago, and I think it actually was in this service that I was talking about. The message was about the faithfulness of God and how God is faithful. And for some reason, and I didn't do this in any of the other services, for some reason, I kind of took that and I started talking about Hosea. And if you're unfamiliar with the story of Hosea is about a man whose wife continuously cheats on him again and again and again, and he takes her back. And so I started talking about Hosea as an example of God, just real quickly, like 2 minutes. And I said, and I've already said, like, if Bethany did that to me, that I would take her back. We've already had that conversation. I've made that decision. If that happened, that's what I'd do. And I remember when service was done, I was like, well, I probably shouldn't have said that. Like, I hope I didn't make Bethany feel uncomfortable going through it, because it wasn't really a concern. But it just came out in that service. And then I had a lady tell me like 6 months later that she was in that service and that her husband had just cheated on her. And she didn't know what she was going to do. But because of what I said, she chose to take him back and to keep their family together. And they were still together to that day. And it just gave me this sense of, as hard as we work on the individual pieces, that God is doing something far more significant in between the cracks and behind the scenes. And one of the other ways that I saw that over and over again was through baptism. So when we first started, we knew we wanted the celebration of baptism to be one of the most important things to us. And we didn't know how that go, because like I came out of churches and traditions where like when people baptize someone, they'd like put on the choir robe, like the one zip choir robe that they were all white and kind of did that thing. And we wanted baptism to be like posters and signs and cheers and clapping and yelling. We wanted it to be far more tailgate party-esque. And so I didn't know if we could actually do that. I didn't know if it would work. And it did. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. But then there was a service about 2.5 years in. And this was actually the service where we baptized, I can't remember, it was 3 or 4 people. And I didn't baptize anyone that service. They all picked other people. And people teased me afterwards, as you have relentlessly for the last 6 years. And they teased me and they're like, oh, some pastor, not baptizing a single person, not even one. Like, way to go, pastor. But when that happened, up until that point in time, I had probably baptized 80% of the people. When we had that service and I didn't baptize anyone, I knew we were really headed somewhere. I knew something significant was happening because people weren't just looking to me anymore. They were looking to all these other people. And you know this, if you've been around the last year, I would say I've maybe baptized 10% of the people who've been baptized in the last year, which is just amazing. That we are that strong of a community in developing each other in our faith. But of all the baptisms, every baptism service are some of my favorites. But there are 2 baptisms that are my favorite. 2 people who were baptized that are my absolute favorite. And I know you shouldn't have favorites like in baptism, like you shouldn't have favorites in kids, Molly. But but I do have 2 favorites in terms of baptism. The first one is Brady Sanders. And if you were here for when Brady Sanders got baptized, this is a long time ago. Brady really wanted to be baptized. He was in elementary school at the time. I don't remember exactly how old he was. But he really wanted to be baptized, but he hated to put his face in water. He absolutely hated to have his face in water, but he wasn't going to let that keep him from being baptized. And so he chose to get baptized with a full mask on, like a full swim mask that had the nose thing and everything. And so he kind of gets down in the tub that we have, and like everyone does when they have the thing that covers their nose and their eyes, is he looks over at me and he's like, there you go. Brady, are you ready to be baptized? Okay, shut your mouth, Brady. Let's go. So Brady was one of my favorites to have that happen. And then my other favorite baptism service wasn't really a service, but was Bob Musson. So Bob Musson helped us bring the baptismal in here. And we chose that since he helped bring the baptismal, that we should baptize him on the spot. So this is the baptismal of Bob. It was an exciting day. One of the other things that will always stick out to me is all the meetings we had. I have been to so many meetings over the last 6 years. And most of them have been great, but I want to talk to you about a few of them that weren't necessarily so great and what happened. One of them happened right after we moved into the VFW. And if you're unfamiliar with the story or if you forget the story, so we were meeting at Highland Christian School. I think I said church in the 9:30 service, but we were meeting at Highland Christian School for a while. And then the ownership of that building changed hands, and it was no longer advantageous for them to have us as tenants. And so they gave us 4 weeks to find a new facility. We begged to get 4 weeks, and so we got 4 weeks to find a new facility. And it took us like 2 weeks of scrambling to figure something out. And then we finally, we kind of landed on the VFW downtown. And that place was a filthy, disgusting mess. It really was. And so we spent 2 weeks and we worked like crazy. Everyone worked like crazy to clean it, to paint it, to build a wall, to do all these different things. And we worked like crazy to get that place set up. And one of the things that I love, sorry, this is a little bit jumping ahead, is that while we're in this building now, that we've seen 2 different churches now meet in the VFW because it was set up as a great way to do church, and one church currently still meets there. But after we went through this 2-week period and we signed this 6-month lease, so we had 6 months and they could sell the building when that happened and we'd be out. So I didn't know what to do. So I called a meeting, and we had all of our guardians, so all of our board members. I called our leadership team. I called some of our finance team. So we've got like 30, 35 people in this room. And I just kind of laid it out and said, hey, we went through this. We scrambled. We only had 2 weeks. We can't have this happen again. What do we do? What do we do next? And what happened in there, I shoulder the blame for that. But I realized something really interesting, and I hope you'll remember this if you face a similar situation, is that when you're in a large group discussing a crisis or a potential crisis, the voice that is heard the clearest is the person who is the most afraid. And I think that's just the nature of a large group having discussion and people not being able to kind of calm that down and lead a way forward, but that whenever you're trying to handle complex information that is emotional with a large group, the voice that will be heard is always the person who is the most afraid. And so I got done with that meeting, which was horrendous. It was absolutely awful, and I thought, okay, I need to do something different. And so I invited Jen Boone and Brian Menke to lunch at Gold Star. And I said, all right, guys, I kind of laid it out the exact same way. I said, hey, we had 2 weeks to find this building. In 6 months, our lease is going to be up. We can't have the same thing happen. We need to find a building. And I'll never forget, Jim Boone is like, okay, well, I'll start looking at that. I'll get it. And then Menke, as only Menke can, goes, oh, I'm going to find you a building. I'm going to find you a building tomorrow. We're going to get a building. I was like, all right, man. And then he did, which is exactly what happened. But it was amazing to see the distinction between there of when wisdom is able to be strong versus when fear is allowed to dominate the discussion. And then, and again, there was another meeting that we had, and it's so interesting to me because I think, especially if you have much church background, people have this picture of like church board meetings as just being these fights and being awful. And I just want you to know, our guardians meetings, they are nothing like that. And we always have to tell people like, no, those are not our meetings. And because there's fun and we laugh and we make fun of each other. And Vicky Brothers brings cookies. So like, it's all those things. It's very, very good. But there was one other meeting that was really tough, and we learned some valuable lessons. That it was after an Easter service, and there were some people were voicing what they had heard from others. That apparently there were some people who were unhappy with the message that Easter Sunday. And so, of course, I was unbiased and not emotional about it at all. And I said, yes, please tell me. I would love to hear. Help me learn. But they always referred, they use this phrase, say, well, there are people who said, well, some people said, and so I finally stopped it, and I was like, I was just getting this like feeling like we've got like hundreds of people who are upset with what happened on Easter Sunday. I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And then I finally stopped it. Okay, wait, hang on. Like for you, how many people? Tell me, how many people? Well, I guess it was one person. Okay, so how about you? How many people? Well, I guess it was one person for me as well. And there were like 4 people who were voicing. It was like, tell me how many people? One person. And then I finally stopped and this didn't happen often, but I said, okay, I need to know who. I need to know who that was so we can actually fix this. And then I kind of used the Bible as a weapon in that moment. I said, hey, the Bible says clearly, gossip is telling someone who can't make a difference. I'm the person who can make the difference. Say, if you're not going to relay that to me, that's gossip. I said, I need to know who. And it was one person. It was one person who was upset. And it was so important to me to understand that. And I'm sharing this with you now because it is so easy to turn the direction of something that is doing so much good and impacting so many people because of one lone voice that is upset. And for me, when I picture our church, this is the picture that I have. It's all these people gathered together, and then Ryan Skaggs laying on his side in the very front, if you can see him there. This is the picture that I have, and to see that it has done all this good, and we were about to hijack it because one voice was upset. And also within those meetings, there's a conversation that we have continuously had, and that is, where is the line? Understanding the line. Our goal as a church has never been to be edgy, okay? We think that is not a worthwhile goal, so we have never pursued edginess. We have pursued engaging for people who are unfamiliar with church. And so that means doing some things that are out of the ordinary, doing some things that are surprising at times, because we always have had a pursuit to be a church for people who don't go to church. And so that has led to many conversations like, did we step over the line? Do we need to step back? What's going on here? And so I want to show you some examples of what those conversations produced. The first one is I want to show you a video that we did years ago as part of a series called On Your Mark. And the series was about character and knowing what we're pursuing. And we did this, and we thought we were taking a big risk in showing these videos. But up until this point in time, we have never received a complaint about these videos. So if you're going to complain about these videos today, tell someone else, because there's really nothing I can do at this point in time. But I want to show you the first one of these videos. Go ahead.
There, Mark.
Junior. He may be a small type, but boy, is he sharp. In Wally and Herbert, there's so much pretty nifty. I'm lucky to call him friend.
Well, I need to put in an important order for a dozen candles.
Oh, don't you worry. I can handle it.
Good afternoon, Mom Mushroom.
What was that for? You know, Three Stooges. The Three Stooges? You know... Yeah, I know the Three Stooges. Now, get my hand. Pew! Pew! What was that one for? The Three Stooges. Hello. You know. Yeah, I know. Larry, Moe. Larry, yeah. I know them. Yeah. Alright, bye. Stop it!
So that was the time that I think we actually got it right. There was another time that we, I don't know, we were right on the edge of that line and probably went over a little bit. So the next video I want to show you is one of the videos that I am most proud of in our time here. And it's a video we did as a part of a series called The Most Courageous Decision. And the most courageous decision was about conversations and having deeper level conversations. But we let Bobby and Joel and Nathan give their own take on the most courageous decision. So I'll tell you the story after you see the video, but I want you to see the video first. Here's the most courageous decision.
Oh, guys, I'm getting a distress call from Kevin. Let's check it out. Hey, Kevin, what's up?
Boys, we need your help on something.
We told you, Kevin, we're retired.
We need you. Our series is in dire need of help.
Okay, what is it, man? Tell us.
We need you to make the most courageous decision.
Even
More courageous than learning how to ride your bike?
More courageous than that!
More courageous than having to swim in the deep end in the swimming pool?
More courageous than finishing all your vegetables?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what is the most courageous decision?
The most courageous decision is...
Well, what are we gonna do now, guys? We've got to make the most courageous decision. We've got to figure out what that is.
No, wait. Guys, he's calling me, so.
Whoa, no, man. I don't think
What?
so. I don't think Kevin would have wanted that.
He just texted me. He said, we must have cut off, guys. Sorry about that. The most courageous decision.
Shut your mouth, Bobby. I know what we've got to do.
What?
Guys, we've got to make the most courageous decisions we've ever made. Let's suit up. The most courageous decision you'll ever make is getting hit by a car. Come on, man, I'm ready. Oh my! Jump into some bushes. Stick a fork into a socket. I'm gonna break the world record for number of times being hit in the head with a hammer. 47. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna watch all of Titanic and not cry. I'm gonna eat this cupcake with no fingers. Apologize. I'm sorry, man. Come here. I'm sorry. What's happening? Hold my breath for 30 minutes, and I'll assist him. Attaboy, Joel. Come on, Joel. Just one more minute, man. Just one more. 29 more minutes, okay?
So, I don't know. I mean, like, the first couple minutes he was really struggling with it, but, you know, now after 29 minutes, he really got into, you know, just a motion of just a real pattern of just staying, you know, a rhythm. So he's down there now, and any minute now, I guess. Any minute.
We're gonna listen to Creed. "36, 37, 38. The most courageous decision you could ever make? Stick your hand in the Ohio River. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
All right, be careful. You got it? Oh,
He's fine. He's fine. Oh, yeah. It's cold.
how is that? Is it fine?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, dude. Nothing to be worried about.
Well, yeah? All right, yeah, cool. Go ahead and take it out.
Yeah.
Oh my God! His arm! It's gone! We gotta go! So here's the other stories to that video. And one of them you've already heard some of. So whenever they had this idea to have Bobby get hit by a car, they're like, hey, we're going to go make this video and we're going to go hit Bobby with a car. And I said, okay. I probably should have been a little more concerned than that. I was like, all right, go ahead. And so they go down and they come back up 5 minutes later to the office, and Bobby has his shirt off and he has his shirt wrapped around his shoulder and he has blood streaming down his arm to his fingers. And he went, hey. And so I go, so what happened, guys? And Joe goes, we were only going like 15 miles an hour. I was like, Joe, if someone was running and hit you at 15 miles an hour, that would really hurt. Like, that was a car. So because of that, we had a board meeting over that, which I have not often felt with our guardians like I was getting called to the principal's office. But that was a time. And so I explained to them what had happened. I explained to them why we still wanted to show the video. And we had about 10 minutes where they gave me parental guidance, where I did a lot of, yeah, I understand. I know. Never again. And so after doing that for like 10 minutes, they said, okay, well, I guess you can show the video. We just need to be really cautious as to what we show and what we don't show. And I should have kept my mouth shut then, but I wanted to let them know, I guess, that I did have some discretion because there was a clip of the video that we had cut that no one had seen. And I don't remember exactly whose idea it was to put this clip together. It was Joel's. Apparently. So it was Joel's idea, I guess, as part of the most courageous decision. The most courageous decision would be to pee your pants in public. So Joel went out in front of Walmart in his khaki shorts with his Hulk mask on and peed his pants and left a puddle where he stood. And so that came up in the board meeting, and they said, we just need to be really careful that we just watch the line and watch what's appropriate. And I can remember sitting there and going, so we should not show the clip of Joel peeing his pants in front of Walmart, right? And they all like independently looked at each other like, can you believe what we're dealing with? And then they all looked at me at the exact same time and said, no. Got it. Thanks, guys. But there's so many moments like that of things that happened. One of my favorites was I was praying and there was a worship song right after me, after one of the messages to close the service. And Josh Coleman was backstage, as he so often is. And he came up from backstage, and he went to pick up the table. And these are not expensive tables. And when he went to pick up the table, the top came off. And so he threw my Bible and water bottle and everything. And kind of like the most intimate one, like the keyboard is playing behind. Everything sounds so nice. And one of the other ones is, you can't see this from here, but behind the curtains, we have like these very large wooden steps. Like they're probably 6 feet wide. These steps for the band to kind of enter and exit. And there was one service where we had a regular full-size band, but every member of the band was going off that side. And to go off quickly, Scott Skaggs was playing bass that day. He went off that direction. What Scott didn't know is that earlier that day, Austin had moved the steps in front of the curtain so that people could enter that direction from the crowd. And so Scott, when the worship set is over, goes marching off the stage, pulled off the curtain, and and so while I'm starting my message, Scott is laying on his back backstage with his bass still on him, which is my favorite. And there's so many things like that that happen. One of my favorite moments that we've had over the last 6 years was the 4 party. Where we canceled church and canceled everything to throw a free party for the community. And it's interesting. Over the years, I had to change how I led a lot because I realized early on that everything was dependent upon me. And that not only was that not a healthy thing for us as a whole, but also that I did not have the best ideas. And as evidenced by the previous videos, I did not always make the best decisions. And so that was one of those moments where I looked over at Steph Stewart and I said, hey, this Sunday I'd like to cancel church and throw a free party for the community. Could we do that? And she went, do you mean, can I do that? And I was like, yeah, that's what I mean. She says, okay. And that's about the only conversation we had. And the rest of it was her and all of you putting that together. And that was, I believe, one of the highlights of the last 6 years. But there were also some struggles. One of the harder times for me was we had one time in our history where we had to let a staff member go. And that was a really hard decision. And it was with the advice and counsel of a lot of other people, but at the end of the day, it was my decision. And the thing that made it so hard is I knew I had done 100 things wrong leading up to it. And yet when it still came that time to make the decision, I knew what was the right thing to do, even though I had done a lot of things wrong leading up to it. And so I made that decision, and we dismissed a staff member who is a very good friend of mine. And I've only had, a lot of times people talk about ministry being hard and not wanting to do it. I've only had 2 times in 10 years of full-time ministry where I legitimately thought, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm not sure if I want to do this anymore. And that was one of them. Not because I made the decision, but after it. Because I didn't want to lead from a sense, I really didn't want to lead from a sense of just authority. Of I'm the pastor, so you have to do this, and this is how it has to be, because I think that's unhealthy for everyone. I wanted to lead through relationships. I wanted to get connected to people. I wanted to be embedded in people's lives and lead that way. The difficult part of that side of leadership is it's more emotional. It's a lot more messy. It's a lot harder. And I wasn't going to do the other way, but when we actually came to the spot of letting someone go, and in the short term, really hurting them, that was really hard. And so after that happened, I just really was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. If it's going to be this hard the rest of the way, I don't know if I want to be a part of this. I don't know if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And within that struggle, I got a note from Paul Conrad, who doesn't send notes. This is a picture of Paul. This is Paul's favorite picture of himself, I'm sure. I got a note from Paul Conrad, and it was really simple. It said this. It said, Kevin, you're one of my best friends. I know this is really hard on you. I know this has really hurt you. But I want you to know, when you hurt, I hurt. We'll be okay. We've got a lot more to do together. Love, Paul. And in 3 sentences, everything changed for me. In 3 sentences, I went from questioning deeply, I don't know if I want to do this, to it'll be fine. It'll be all right. So the question that we started this morning with is, how is the church the light of the world? And the answer is, all of that. That is how the church is the light of the world. All the meetings, all the baptisms, all the times that I said the wrong thing that ended up being wrong, and all the times that I said the wrong thing and it ended up being right. All the goof-ups and all the mess-ups and all the times when people extended grace or forgiveness, and all the times in which we somehow figured out a way to navigate this thing together. This is how the church is the light of the world. And I think the thing that's really hard about the church, and this is the one thing that I just attempted to show you from the stories today, is a lot of times when we talk about something and what it is and what it's called to be, so in this case, the church being the light of the world, we want to explain what it is. We want to explain, okay, so this is how it is the light of the world. But I don't think that's possible with the church. And so this is the statement I want to leave you with, that the church can't be explained. It can only be experienced. For me to stand up here and to say this is how the church is the light of the world, I can't do it justice. I can't properly show you exactly how the church is the light of the world because it doesn't make sense with just words. But when you've experienced it, when you've been a part of it, you would just agree. Yeah, absolutely. Because the church is, in a sense, this collection of followers of Christ knit together in a community. It's messy. It really is. And the one thing is that we're okay with that. We anticipate it. Like Christians of every background, of every nation in the world, we all at least agree on one doctrine. We agree on many things, but I know we all agree in the fact that people are sinful. And so we expect it to be messy. We anticipate it to be difficult at times. And I think sometimes people, when they've seen the worst in the church, they want to run. They want to be done with it. And I want you to know, I have seen the church at its worst. I absolutely have. I have seen the church at its worst. I have, within official ministry positions, I have worked for 3 different people in official ministry positions. One of them I felt like was using me and didn't care about me at all, and the other 2 had to leave the ministry because they had affairs. Okay, so when we talk about seeing the worst in the church, I assure you, I have seen the worst in the church. And yet I still believe that the church is the light of the world. Because when we come together and we choose over and over again to extend grace, when anger is an easier option, when we choose again and again to extend forgiveness and to break these cycles of despair in people's lives, we become the light of the world. And the one thing that I've said over and over again for the last 6 years is you need to experience the church. You need to not just hear about it. You need to not just talk about it. You need to experience what it's like to be a part of the church. And I've always ended it with this. You need to join a group. You need to join a group because that is where you experience the church. And one of the hardest phone calls I got over the last 6 years is I got a call from this lady who they had attended the church off and on here and there, and then they didn't attend anymore, and I didn't take it personal. It's always personal. And they didn't attend anymore, and she called to say that her husband had gone through kind of this crisis, and she goes, what he really needs more than anything else is he needs a church family. He needs people to rally around him. And so I was like, okay. And so I started texting people and said, hey, would you reach out to them? Would you let them know you're praying for them? Would you bring them a meal? And we kind of like patchworked together. We kind of put some things together. But the thing that was so hard within it is I just wanted to say, like, family can't be created in a moment. It has to already be there. And so you want something in an instant that you haven't cultivated over time. And so now you're getting strangers talking to you. You're not getting family because that's distinct. And in the last 6 years, I've had the privilege of being a part of 4 different small groups. We started in Scott Skagg's small group, in which I learned what it looks like to ask great questions and then also to let couples fight for your own entertainment, which was enjoyable. I got to be in Marianne and Denny Perkins' small group for a short period of time as we were testing out some curriculum stuff, and I saw how committed they were to Scripture. I got to be a part of Tim Sargent's small group for a couple years, and I got to see him through the group and through other things over and over again model what it looks like to show courage within your life. And now the small group that we're in, I don't even know who leads our small group. I think Bethany started it, and Taylor and Kyle kind of lead it, and Scott Compton kind of leads it. I don't even know who the leader is. But that's my group now. And last night was, other than tonight, was our last night in Maysville all together. And we spent it with our small group. And we went and played laser tag. And Bethany, to my disdain, walloped us all again because for some reason I cannot beat that lady in laser tag for the life of me. But that's what we did. And so we chose to take our last night that was unscheduled and to spend it with family. Because that's what the church is. And there's this interesting passage in the book of Ephesians in which Paul describes the church. And the metaphor that Paul uses to describe the church is he uses the metaphor of a body. And he says, you are, well, until Jesus returns, he is saying you are the light of the world. And so you are collectively Jesus' hands, Jesus' feet, Jesus' head, and Jesus' heart. And when we come together in this sense as a body, we are the light of the world. And here's the thing that I think throws people off, is for 6 years, I have had the privilege of serving as the mouth. For 6 years, I've had the privilege of being the voice, but nothing more than that. I'm not the hands. I am not the feet. I am not the head. And I am not the heart of Crosspoint Community Church. I have been the mouth. And you're going to enter a period of time in which different people are going to step up and fulfill the purpose of being the mouth. And then one day, you will find someone who will serve as the new mouth of the church, as the new voice of the church. But they will not be the hands. They will not be the feet. They will not be the head. And they will not be the heart. That is what you are. That is what you have been called to become. And that is what you have always been. And so I want you to know that this thing we do here, this whole church thing, is messy. It's hard. But I believe wholeheartedly that it is worth fighting for. It is worth getting right. And it is worth giving your life to. Because the church at its best is nothing short than the light of the world. And so my call to you is to not fall short in your calling. To not decide 10 yards short of the finish line to have a seat and take a break, but to continue to be the light in a world that is very, very dark. Let me pray for you. Father, at times like this, I find the right words often escape me. But it is within these moments that we have faith. And so, Lord, for all the things that we wish and desire and hope for, and yet at the end of the day, we do not always know what is best for us. And so it is within you that we put that trust. Help us to choose hope over despair. Help us to choose forgiveness over vengeance. Help us to choose kindness over anger. And help us to choose light when it would be so much easier to fall into darkness. And God, at the end of the day, our only desire is the one clear command you gave us over and over again, is that we would follow you in everything that we do. And so, Father, help us to follow. Help us to be the light. Help us to know you. And I pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.